Hi, Dylan.
Hey, Brad. How's it going?
It's going good. Yourself?
I'm doing all right.
Hello there, new fans. This is our, we're live. We're doing it.
Oh, okay. We're doing it live.
We're just going to go for it. Yeah. So this is the first episode of a new series for the Dogcast. We are calling ourselves the Raw Dogs. Initially thought it was a pretty dumb name and a terrible name, but then it's kind of grew on me. I thought it'd look good on a t-shirt someday, so fuck it. Dylan, we work in beer and cheese in Wisconsin.
Yes.
We are Wisconsin boys. You might have heard us on Hair the Dogcast.
Absolutely. My first episode was just recently.
Yeah. So the Dogcast proper, we're known for just being a bunch of drunk buffoons.
Right.
Who don't really know too much.
Yes.
Kind of. But
we know it. We know enough because we're willing to talk about it. We don't want to look like complete assholes.
Well, listen to some of the older episodes maybe. But yeah, we wanted to start this other series that we're going to be releasing bi-weekly. This is going to be a little more focused, a little more researched.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about, the background history and some more of the cultural implications of a certain series, but it could be anything. There's no real specific guidelines right now.
Right.
Today, what are we talking about?
We're talking about Pokemon, probably my favorite JRPG that has ever been made.
I won't say it's my favorite, but it's definitely one of the biggest for sure.
It is insane. It is not just a video game series. It is a cultural touchstone. I was so obsessed with this series growing up in ways that only a kid with Asperger's can.
Yeah, Pokemon is the highest grossing media franchise of all time. I was surprised to hear that he was making more than Mickey Mouse.
But why? Why would you not think that? Because it's multimedia.
It is multimedia.
Video games cost a lot more money than a movie. But then you have stuff like the anime, and then you have stuff like the trading card game alone, which still makes, $1 billion a year? Something like that?
It is the top-selling trading card game of all time with 27.2 billion cards sold.
Oh. Man. I've still only got one. I only kept one because it was my favorite Pokemon. Can you guess what it was?
Jinx.
Oh, yeah. Love Blackface. Super cool.
That was a controversial Pokemon.
Yes, definitely. But no, it's Snorlax.
Snorlax.
I've got a hollow Snorlax. It's not a first edition, but it's from the gym leader packs that they released shortly afterwards.
So, yeah, if it ain't first edition, it's
not worth much. It's sentimental.
Yeah, I remember the Pokemon trading card game. I remember collecting all of the cards and never really grasping how to play them.
It's like baby magic. That's essentially it. It's a lot of fun. But you said that you've played the one for the Game Boy Color.
Yeah, the trading card game on the Game Boy Color is fantastic.
But that taught you how to play the game.
It does, but then you also have to, in the real world,
own the cards.
I mean, I made decks out of all the cards that I have because I still have my cards. I'm not sure if they're here in Milwaukee or back home. But the trading cards, best-selling trading card game in the anime series, has over 20 seasons with 1,000 episodes.
How many of those have you seen?
Heck, might have seen some of the first season.
I think I've seen, because I was a kid without cable, so I watched it on Kids WB for a long time, even on Saturdays when I was way too old for it.
Yeah.
Because you had nothing else to fucking do. I've probably seen up until, the Sinnoh region. So that's Gen 4. I recently watched Sun and Moon because the animation got a lot better. And I watched a few recommended episodes of those, which it turned out really well. Honestly, that show is still pretty entertaining. Ash is still 10 or 11. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah, but it's a good choice. He's like Bart Simpson.
Well, fuck it. While we're talking about the anime, everyone, of course, knows about episode 38 with Electric Soldier Porygon.
The one that gave kids seizures?
More than 635 children in Japan had seizures and went to the hospital. Not funny.
I mean, no, it's not, but it's also the fact that Porygon did it.
Yeah.
I actually saw the scene that is supposed to cause the seizures themselves. It is pretty intense.
I almost watched it today, but I was...
Were you afraid of seizures?
I was like, well, if it affected 5 to 10% of its viewers. They had mild symptoms at least.
Oh, well, no, yeah, it's pretty fast blinking lights. I think one of the issues that it doesn't work anymore is because I saw it in HD format, which wouldn't have an effect because the cycling for the video is different.
Yeah, that's the one that everyone kind of knows about, but there's 2 other episodes that are pretty fun. Episode 18, Beauty and the Beach. You know this one.
It's the one where James has tits, right?
He has inflatable breasts. And at different points of the episode, he inflates them to different sizes.
Yeah, I can't show that.
Oh my gosh. I love Japanese anime, though. The early Dragon Ball series.
Oh, boy.
So raunchy.
Yes. Oh, God. Well, in Japan, they're much more known for being very forgiving for a lot of this stuff, especially stuff like blood and violence. They don't really shield kids from that as much. The people who originally controlled Pokemon in the West was for kids animation. And so you had to take out everything that had a gun or a gun-like thing pointing at you into the camera, or you couldn't have anyone with a cigarette, so they'd all have to change them to lollipops. Or famously, Brock presents rice patties as jelly donuts, which is so funny.
No one accused Brock of being too smart.
Well, I honestly wanted to try the jelly donuts when he presented them, so I don't know.
I was listening to some different songs from Spotify while I was just doing my research. And
Pokemon songs?
I just went to a Pokemon playlist.
What the fuck?
There was a ballad that Brock sings about how he wants to be a one-woman man, but there's two women who are perfect for him.
Oh, Officer Jenny and Nurse Joy. Oh, my God.
It's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Was that from like the first movie?
It's from one of the movies.
Okay, it's got to be the first, right?
No, not the first one. The first movie I remember being such a big deal because I'm from small town South Dakota. I actually went to the movie 4 different times to get all the different cards because they had a different.
Oh, so you got like that runic Mew.
You get the runic one, but
the
then
the Dragonite that has the messenger bag.
There was a Pikachu. I forget what the other one was, but I remember going to see that movie 4 times and being blown away as a child.
Well, we're the same. You're 1 year older than me, Brad.
I'm 31.
Okay, so I am a year and a half younger than you, but we're the same. We were in the exact demographic that they wanted. We were the beginning of that demographic. We were right there. Anyone who was 10 years old who wanted to go out on a journey, basically like ditching their entire families to hang out with monsters that they could battle, like we were it. We were the target audience. You've never expressed to me a love of Pokemon.
I fell away. I was the 6th grader who had his Pokemon cards at recess, and
Sure.
I was at Catholic school, so middle school didn't start until 7th grade. So I was hanging out with the 4th graders and the 3rd graders a lot of times.
Hey, that's fine.
I actually had the Pokédex, that book. I had the first one that only lists 150 Pokemon, but I had read it so much in school that I had memorized all the sizes, like the weights and stuff.
Holy crap.
The teacher took it away from me. She said, "You're not allowed to read this book anymore."
Oof.
Yeah, I decided I wanted to be cool and get rid of Pokemon, and then Gold and Silver came out, and I just had this moment like maybe it'd be fun. I went and bought it so hard and played it so hard.
Yes.
That was my last real experience. I got the demo for Pokemon Let's Go.
That's literally where you dropped off?
Gold and Silver. That came out
2000.
Yeah, 2000.
99 in Japan.
And Pokemon Snap. When did that come out? That came out in 99 North America.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Pokemon Snap. I guess I just have too much nostalgia for the original generation that.
Sure.
I mean, I own Fire Red. I don't know where I got the cartridge, but I have that. I just have that nostalgia. So when I started playing the demo of Let's Go and it was just that same region and the same Pokemon, it was something I wanted to revisit.
Yeah, I think that was a very obvious choice for them to do. With Let's Go, I find a lot of it to be watered down, but I still found it very entertaining. I actually bought it because I was so hyped for Sword and Shield, and I had never played Let's Go in any format.
Are you talking about Pokemon Go?
Yeah, no, Pokemon Let's Go.
Well, Let's Go is different than Pokemon Go for the phone.
Oh, yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm going to confuse the two constantly.
They're based on...
They're
Let's Go's
basically
based
the same
on
thing.
Go, yeah.
Yes, but with only the first 151. If you buy a special Pokeball Plus, which I did, you can get Mew.
How much did your Pokeball Plus cost?
$50.
Outside of the game?
Yeah. No, now with Pokemon Sword and Shield, I can actually carry some of my Pokemon in there. So what you can do is you can earn like mints and stuff like that by just walking around with it. It's just a weird accessory you can have on the side. And you can raise Pokemon just by walking. They get experience points.
Do you have your Pokeball on you now?
No. I forgot to transfer one over. It would have probably been my Inteleon. He's the final form of Sobble from the new gen.
I don't know my Pokemon anymore. I know like maybe the 250.
Well, you've seen the new starters, right?
I've seen there's a bunny. There's a fire bunny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a monkey. He's made of grass. And then there's a lizard who basically looks like he wants to cry all the time. And that's the one I chose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. If there was a armadillo drinking a cool ice, I know which one you would have chose.
Pretty much. No, but he evolves into this like secret agent Pokemon. And he looks cool as hell. So I would have carried him around probably. Because those new ones they're designed by a new guy. I forget his name, but they're really good. I honestly think
the new Pokemon designs.
Yes, the new Pokemon designs. They're done by an American now.
Is this the first game with a new guy doing the designs? Because
Ken Sugimori, he took the original sprites that they were making and he drew them as illustrations to make them like more appealing, obviously. Because when you're talking about red and green versions, the first versions, the Japanese ones, all of those Pokemon look awful. Have you seen some of the sprites from Red and Green?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they look more like monsters.
Yeah, but they also look demented and unappealing. So when they brought Sugimori in to not redesign, but to kind of make them more appealing, they were immediately like, oh crap. So that's when they rechanged the sprites for Blue version, which originally was a mail order Pokemon game. And I would consider it just a special edition. And they took that one and then they made Red version that. And then they took that Blue version, kept it the same. And that's what we got in America.
Let's go back a sec here.
Sure.
The person who is the creator of this franchise, Satoshi Tajiri, his friends call him Dr. Bug.
Dr. Bug, yes.
Great nickname for a kid.
He was obsessed with bugs and bug catching. In Japan, the idea of this auteur developer isn't really as big as it is.
His parents weren't happy with him. He barely graduated high school.
Yeah.
He was so obsessed with arcades because originally he was, out there catching bugs, but then they developed all of that area. So instead of parks, he had arcades and became obsessed with Space Invaders. He actually won a game design contest with Sega.
Oh, really? I don't remember this.
He pitched a sequel to Space Invaders, and he was 17 at the time. He won the contest, and he won a bunch of money with that. And his parents were like, you're never going to make it. He's like, I'm already doing pretty good for a 17-year-old.
Well, especially back then. This would have been early to mid 80s?
I think it was 81 was when he started his fanzine Game Freak.
This is when arcades were just popping off.
When they were hot over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started a little publication where he did all the illustrating on the first few issues.
Yep.
Everything was handwritten out and photocopied. Just sold it at the local store, and that was where Game Freak started. And eventually, Ken Sugimori reached out and helped him do the illustrations for that. Junichi Masuda was involved with Game Freak as well. They kind of just realized that they were getting tired of arcade games. They thought they were getting kind of shitty.
And they were, because that's when the crash happened. The home console crash was probably the worst thing that could have happened at that moment because everyone was producing these cheap games. None of them were good. And so no one was going out to buy them.
No standard of quality.
That just flooded the market. There was nobody wanted to buy any of that stuff. Not until the NES came along did anybody get back into any home console gaming. So the arcade was the only place you could find a lot of this stuff. I'm trying to think of arcade games from this time. I'm thinking Burger Time. I'm thinking I'm not even a huge arcade guy. Give me some examples.
Xevious was what wound up being his most popular issue of Game Freak. Dig Dug was another
Dig Dug's
one that
fabulous. Yes, Namco is a popular company.
But so they decided, these guys, that, all right, we're going to just have to make the games if no one is going to make a game that we think is good enough. And so their first one that they created was called Quinty, which was a kind of simple floor flipping game. I've seen some of the gameplay. I haven't played it, but he took it to a game company and said, here's a finished game. Would you like it? Rather than, can I have money to make a game? Which, that's a pretty big dick move right there.
I mean, that's a good big dick move. That's one of those things where if you can go beyond a proof of concept and have a finished product, that's money in the pocket.
So that's kind of where they got their start. But Game Freak, the company, they started working on Pokemon as a game back in 1990.
Yes.
They worked in it for 6 years.
Mm-hmm. A lot of it was pre-production and concept.
They weren't making money. They made a few other games while they were also working on Pokemon. They made a Mario and Wario game that was Famicom exclusive.
I've never played that one.
Yeah, I guess the point is Mario's wearing a bucket on his head, and you control this little like fairy that has to kind of guide Mario through the stage, and Wario is the one who put the bucket on his head. He's just the dick who put a bucket on your head.
I mean, that sounds awful, but then it would have had to have taken place after Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, because that's the first appearance. Let's get our timelines.
I love Wario. He's a good character. They don't. I wish that they would utilize Wario and Waluigi in main Mario titles more.
Well, have you ever played, and did you like the Wario Land series?
I didn't really play them.
My suggestions for the audience is Wario Land 4 for the Game Boy Advance. It's one of the best platformers I think I've ever played. And then I would say Wario World for the GameCube. An underrated treasure.
Yeah, that one looks good. I want there to be a new main Mario title, though, where you kind of have the Bulk and Skull are these two idiots that are kind of just fucking with Mario the whole time.
Yeah.
Wario and Luigi just roll up. Wario could have his motorcycle, Waluigi in the sidecar.
Yeah.
With his legs way too big for the sidecar.
Yeah. Have you seen the new Mario Kart 8 mod where it's just Waluigi running? And then they did a whole thing where it was every single cart was just Waluigi running.
That's great.
It's pretty wild. It's very funny. You should look it up. Actually, let's put a link to it in our show notes.
There's the link. Boom. In
There we
the show
go.
notes right there. Yeah, so with the Pokemon game, one of the original inspirations was he saw the link cable and that people were able to, they were only using it to play against each other, but he saw in his mind, he just imagined bugs crawling between two systems over the cable. He envisioned it to be more of a cooperative trading type experience rather than competition.
Well, you know that Shigeru Miyamoto was the one who came up with the suggestion to have different versions with different Pokemon that appeared in each. Not all different on each, but some of them were, in order to encourage that type of communication. There's a part of me also that's the cynic and that said, oh, dude just wanted to cha-ching, make some cash.
You just change a few Pokemon around, then you could sell them too. But yeah, I just watched an interview and he said he just thought it'd be great for all the siblings to have little different versions of the games and they could trade with each other.
Yeah.
But also they could sell the same game 3 times.
Well, what's so lovely about especially like the classic Pokemon games is that you were forced, and especially as a kid who did not like hanging out with like other people, I loved to spend time alone. This kind of forced me to get out of my shell, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I really want my Kadabra to evolve into Alakazam.
Yeah.
So at the very least, I have to go up to another kid, ask them if I can trade that, evolve it, and then trade it back.
And you're like, just give me your Haunter, we'll make a Gengar.
Exactly. And then I can fill out that of the Pokédex. I will say this, Red and Blue, the only time I've ever completed the Pokédex.
Is Mew considered part of the original Dex?
No.
You don't consider him because he's in the original game.
They give you the certificate after
you get the 150.
Mewtwo. Yep.
Because there's like a Game Freak room in Red and Blue, right? Where you get the certificate?
Yeah. It's in the tower next to the department store in, not Goldenrod.
My Pokemon right now, my little Meowth is being kind of a pest.
He's the Alolan form.
Oh, and just one other thing about Meowth. The other episode that didn't air in the anime, Meowth had a Hitler mustache, and there's a lot of guns.
Oh, that's fun.
Episode 35.
No, I can appreciate that.
Yeah. I haven't looked it up. I want to do that, though. They worked in it for 6 years. I guess Final Fantasy Legend was another inspiration for it.
Well, especially that isometric view.
Yep.
In the way that the combat, well, not the combat worked, but the way you could interact. Because they had a lot of trouble. Have you ever played the first Dragon Warrior for the Game Boy Color?
I have never played a Dragon Warrior game.
It's Dragon Quest. Okay.
There's not enough time to play all these games.
No, and especially that one, because you would never want to go back to that one. I would say play Dragon Quest 11 if you're going to play a Dragon Quest at this point. Or Dragon Quest 5. I can oddly recommend that one still. But the other ones are kind of like, take it or leave it.
I have a problem with being a completionist and I want to start things at the first one, which usually isn't the right. Like if you were to do that with the Elder Scrolls series and you start off with Arena, you'd be very upset.
Yes, you would.
And it wouldn't give you a good perspective. You almost need to start at Morrowind for that. But even then, that's a little too not user-friendly.
It's got a lot of jank.
A lot of jank. But a lot of people love that jank and they complain about the
newer ones.
Of the UI.
I think people can get too nostalgic.
I do have Skyrim for the VR, and whenever I play it, I refuse to fast travel. I try and do as much. Just this is
straight up
living in the universe, and I treat.
Do you create yourself in the character creator?
I don't create myself, but I am like kind of myself. I'll be myself as like a cat warrior or something.
Oh, sure.
But I will treat people with respect, and I'll try not to steal things. And
Right, like how you would actually act in the real world. That's a form of role playing. It's valid.
And then eventually I'm a stealth archer, as always.
Yeah, that's what it devolves into. I made a pure mage once. Very difficult.
Very difficult.
Very difficult.
I became head of the Mages Guild while only using a fire spell like 3 times.
Yeah, it's a little unbalanced. Elder Scrolls 6, when that comes out 5 years from now.
we got the trailer,
We got a panoramic shot of some mountains.
That font, whoa, says a
Wild,
lot
dude.
about the story.
Well, if you want to make people clap at E3.
Doesn't take much there.
Okay, back to Pokemon.
Back
Where
to
were
Pokemon. So yeah, it was developed by 10 people over 6 years. The Game Boy, when it came out, was 7 years old.
In the decline, yep.
And everyone was kind of thinking the system was kind of over. The game released to not a ton of fanfare the first month, but
No.
word spread, sales were steady, and it just got bigger and bigger. And Creatures Inc. also invested and received 1/3 of the rights in that long gestation of the game.
Well, what's really cool about Creatures Inc. They put their asses on the line. They were already made from the shell of a dead company, Ape Inc. If you don't know what Ape Inc. is, if you've ever heard of Earthbound, Earthbound was such a not a critical flop, a commercial flop. They basically went out of business and became Creatures Inc. out of the shell of it. So Shigesato Itoi was also very important to the development.
Wouldn't have happened without him.
No, it definitely would not have. Especially if Miyamoto hadn't seen some of the early concepts of Pokemon, he wouldn't have signed off on it either. Because, as we all know, he's very, these days, not so much. Star Fox Zero. He's not as innovative as he used to be. Let's put it that way. I love Miyamoto, though.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk any shit to that guy. We'll talk about Kojima in a couple weeks. But
Well, I have a lot to say about Kojima, too.
I think Tom does as well. Before the game was released, they still had the debug menu set up. And when the debug menu was taken out, there was enough room for Shigeki Morimoto he just threw Mew in there. Just threw Mew in as kind of a prank. Only the developers really knew about it. It became a pretty big deal.
Oh, yeah. Just legendary. Do you remember trying your little heart out, the truck outside of the SS Anne?
Dude.
In Saffron?
Yep.
Oh, my God.
Well, if you had a level 100 Machamp, you could move it with strength. Everyone knows that.
I heard you had to defeat the Elite Four 100 times.
Oh, okay. There's also another one where if you have a Licky Tongue, you take it to fight Snorlax, you turn your Game Boy upside down, it turns into Luigi. That was probably my favorite conspiracy theory I saw.
That sounds batshit. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he was a plumber type Pokemon. And Dragonite could turn into Yoshi. That was another one that I saw.
On what fucking planet?
Dude, I love playground rumors. They don't exist anymore because everything's too accessible. But back in the day...
Well, you didn't even call bullshit on those?
You didn't know as a kid.
Yeah, but you could have been like, well, that sounds ludicrous.
The truck looked suspicious.
The truck was very suspicious because it was on a dock, which is just, I don't know. Wouldn't you unload before the dock? I've got no clue. It's the Pokemon world. None of it makes sense. They have to eat Pokemon, but you never hear about that, so...
And I guess Pokemon used to be people back in the day. There was you couldn't tell them apart, and then their evolutionary line diverged or something.
No,
I guess that's us and animals.
Well,
today,
they were considered separate but equal, especially early on. They have to justify the pseudo cockfighting as partnerships. So
they want to fight.
They do though. Yeah, they honestly do want to fight. Either that or do their own shit, and then they won't be captured anyway.
I was happy to read that. So the Pokeball, it's the size of a golf ball. You hit the button, it turns into the size of a baseball.
The Pokeball Plus controller?
Yeah.
Size of a golf ball.
Which it seems too small to me, but I guess it's accurate.
So you press the button and it goes bloop?
Not in real life.
No, man, if it did, holy shit, that'd be so cool.
That technology we use on something other than Pokeballs by now.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, the world's burning, why not?
Fuck it. Quit trying to get us to the moon and make beer that doesn't make me fat. Please.
Yeah, that's my main concern at this point.
Can we not figure it out?
I'm tired of vodka seltzers.
Let's have a White Claw.
Let's have a White Claw. A few of the myths I remember is Poke Blue.
Peekaboo.
Oh yeah, Peekaboo. A friend of mine actually for his birthday, before Gold and Silver was released, he got a pack of cards from Japan. Mm-hmm. and it had Meryl on it. And we all know that Meryl was the Peekaboo,
yes,
quote unquote. And so it was all in Japanese lettering, and we were all just like, holy crap, it exists.
It's real.
And then when the game came out, it was like, oh, it's Meryl. What the fuck?
Not a great name.
No, I don't even really get the name anymore. Azumarill, a really good tank if you know how to play him.
Good design.
I mean, Azumarill, not as much, but Meryl looks pretty good. He's based off of a beach ball, and he's a water type, and he's a mouse. I mean, what else do you fucking want? Another one was, there was a guy who I went to daycare with. His name was Evan, and he would snot into his hands, and then he would play with the Legos so that nobody ever wanted to touch the Legos but him. And he told me there was a Pokemon called Charcoal, and it was an evolution. Charcoal?
Charcoal, the evolution of Charizard.
Yeah. I heard Charcoal.
The one that I saw was Charcoal.
Charcoal.
And Blastoise evolved into Rainer. And
Rainer.
That's one of the myths were.
No, I only ever heard of Charcoal. I just kept calling him Charcoal.
Charcoal's a cool name.
It is. And I mean, it's an obvious, like, it sounds plausible.
Yeah.
Another one, the Lavender Town music creating suicides.
I like that myth. That music is endlessly creepy.
Oh, it is. And it's also, this is at a time when Pokemon allowed itself to be a little dark.
There weren't ice cream Pokemon yet.
Hold on. I like vanilla-ish.
I'm not saying there's nothing wrong. There was just no ice cream Pokemon. It was
no, but I mean,
people mourning their dead Pokemon in Lavender
There were
Town.
like just two-headed sand skipper birds.
Doduo?
Yeah.
Doduo can fly.
I know he can. That's fucked.
Like a helicopter or something.
Spinning his head. He's like Tails from Sonic.
Terrifying.
No, but I mean, there are some real duds in that first generation design-wise, in my opinion.
Who would you say is a dud?
I still think Diglett's a dud.
What are you talking about? It looks like a little turd.
Yeah, a turd popping out of the ground. Is that what appeals to you?
And when 3 Diglets get together, look out.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I guess I liked that Pokemon. I remember getting it in the cave and just really digging the fact, like that dig move where you go underground.
Oh, it's like an escape rope without using escape rope.
I like that.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. Weird Pokemon. I mean, Jinx is clearly just a terrible Pokemon.
Yeah.
Apart from
typing,
the racial issues there, it's still just a dumb looking Pokemon.
Kids don't even think about that stuff until you bring it up to them anyway.
Until you teach it to them.
Right, exactly. So it's like,
they see Meowth with a Hitler mustache. They don't know it's a bad thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that. Maybe I would have. I read weird books.
Why can Meowth talk?
I have no idea.
That's a weird one.
Since then, there have been a few Pokemon that can learn to talk, but I'm not sure why Meowth can do it. I'm going to be completely honest. I think it was just mainly for the anime.
It's just better for the anime.
Yes.
Because if it's just James with inflatable tits, you got to have someone with some...
Well, each tit can talk.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
A groundbreaking show, to be sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But Mew was included in the game. It was kind of becoming a myth or a legend, and people weren't sure if you'd be able to get it. And then Nintendo had the foresight to release it to a limited number of people. They could enter to win the competition. You send your cartridges in, and then you'd have Mew. Could you imagine being one of the only 151 or however many kids had that? And imagine being the friend just begging, just trade it and I'll give it back, I swear. Well, there was at least one fist fight back in the day where some kid got the Mew and didn't give it back, just ran away full speed.
I mean, that's insane bragging rights right off the bat. I probably would have strangled a kid for it.
You'd have turned into Smeagol real quick.
Yeah, that would have been my One Ring type situation.
I want Mew. It's my birthday.
Well, Mew is so good because it can learn every move.
Yep.
In the game.
Can transform.
Yes, and its base stats, all told, put together, were tied with Mewtwo, but they were all level across the board. So they were 100 all the way through. Mm-hmm. Which, even now, in terms of the games, is pretty hard to find. You've always got a stat that's way lower than the other ones because they want to create a balance, and they want it to be, obviously, more of a game. Mm-hmm. But I loved Mew. I wanted one so bad.
I love the theory that Ditto was the genetic material from Mew.
Yes.
That was a failure.
Well, you find it in the Pokemon Mansion on Cinnabar Island, and that's like the cloning facility.
Yeah.
Wild. Like there's a lot of environmental storytelling in Pokemon when you really get down to it.
I like the theory that Cubone is the descendant of Genghis Khan.
That was what it was originally intended to be, but they changed it. I mean, a lot of Pokemon weren't what they were. Venonat was supposed to evolve into Butterfree.
And Venomoth was supposed to go from Metapod.
Yes.
Which would make more sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know the first Pokemon that was ever designed?
Right on.
Yep. Yep. I was going to try and stump you. You got it.
Can you name one of the other first three? I can only name one of the other first three. I forget the other one. I know Lapras was another one of the originals because they were envisioning, I think, dinosaur types initially.
Yeah.
And they were going to all have work functions so they could coexist.
Right.
Which, if you've seen Detective Pikachu, that concept is very much worked into that city in the film.
What did you think of Detective Pikachu?
It was cute. It was fun.
I liked it.
As far as the Pokemon franchise is concerned, they couldn't have made a better Pokemon movie, in my opinion.
Especially live action.
That was great.
Yeah.
Just having a weird lick-a-tongue in a train car lick someone's face, that's Pokemon gold. That Mr. Mime scene.
Oh, yes.
Fantastic.
Yes. I love Mr. Mime. Controversial.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Mime's really cool.
I don't know how he is outside of the movie. His character in the movie is bizarre.
He's basically a special wall, so he can absorb special attacks.
His design, though, just like he's a Pokemon that is a mime.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he can actually create the barriers, which is actually really cool, too. I'm so surprised that movie did as well as it was because I thought it was going to be a flop.
I didn't know. There's no way that movie would be a flop. You got Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu, which is a funny enough concept, but also the trailer is just geared towards nostalgia, towards our generation. And you're still playing the games, but I hadn't picked one up, and I said, there's no way I'm not going to go see that
So you
movie.
saw some Pokemon in there that you were like, what the fuck?
They
mostly stuck to the first 150, but
I do recognize some Pokemon from Pokemon Go and also Smash Brothers. I recognize a Greninja when I see one.
Yeah, and the ones that come out of the balls, the assist Pokemon.
Yep, the assist balls in there. But I thought it was fun. I like that Mewtwo. They didn't really say he was going to be one of the major players in the film. The twist that one of the bad guys was Ditto the whole time was hilarious.
Yeah,
I didn't see that one coming. Wearing glasses the whole time, sunglasses, beautiful.
That's nice because Ditto always reveals himself by his eye shape, which are just two dots.
Yeah,
very funny. That's really good.
Yeah,
had to be a hot lady though. That created a lot of weird fetishes, I'm going to imagine.
Brock was watching the film very excited.
Oh, that Brock.
Did he ever in the anime try to get Ditto to turn into Nurse Joy or anything? It's Japan. I imagine he must have.
I mean, probably in like a doujinshi of some sort.
What's a doujinshi?
I mean, it's like a hentai manga that's made with properties that already exist.
Out at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, there was a whole booth just selling hentai and octopus stuffed animals.
Sure.
And I was
uncomfortable. How many did you buy? Oh.
I just walked by and it was, that's weird.
You haven't seen this in your various online escapades?
No, you have to go looking for that stuff. But I didn't expect to see hentai at a convention where children are quite often around.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to be done about it. Gross people are gross.
But Pokemon, huge success.
Yes.
It came to America. They released the anime in America before the show, which I think was smart.
Oh, before the games.
Oh, yes. Yeah, before the games. And they put the number that they say is $50 million into advertising for it. Oh, yeah. And
they knew what it was in Japan, and they immediately, well, some people had a lot of confidence in it.
Yeah.
Not many, but some like higher ups were just like, this seems right.
This is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And it was even bigger than they anticipated when it hit America. That was a phenomenon. And I quickly needed to know everything about the games.
Yes.
Needed the Pokedex. I remember having a really shitty board game that I loved.
Oh, I know that one. It's like all blue and there's just like a Pikachu on it and
there's like Pogs.
Yes. Yep.
And you try and collect Pokemon to fight the Elite Four.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess the game concept for the main series hasn't really changed too much. I don't think we need to talk about it too much. You're a kid. Your parents say you're a kid. Get out of the house and go collect every monster in the world.
It actually changes between some of them slightly, where there's like a different start to the hero's journey, but most of it, you're going to know exactly what you're getting with each new game.
Yeah.
It starts with you being like 10 and deciding like, oh, okay, well, I was involved in this dangerous situation and I was triumphant, and now I feel like I can set off into the world and do whatever because the world isn't full of pedophiles.
No, it's just full of bug catchers and fishermen, if I know anything, and lass.
And youngsters who brag about their rats.
What does that one youngster say? Something about, I like shorts because they're comfy?
Yes, I like, I like shorts because they feel good. Something like that, yeah. Which is just like, well, They
You're
were
not
clearly,
wrong. You're not wrong.
No,
kid,
yeah,
but
I mean,
not
like,
the best conversationalist here.
It's like, come on, man, your balls haven't dropped. You don't understand how good
Hey, do you want
shorts
to have
are.
a bet?
And then they have like a Rattata. They're like, I'm gonna whoop your ass.
Yeah.
No.
That always bothered me too. I'm walking around with 6 Pokemon, even if they're all shit. Someone challenged you with 2 Rattatas.
Yeah, I know.
You know you can carry 6.
I know. It's funny to me that your rival even thinks he can beat you half the time.
Yeah.
You know, early on, I didn't even understand type matchups very well because I was 8 and I just liked Pokemon to use the moves that I wanted them to.
Right.
So I had a lot of trouble because I always chose Charmander, and Brock is the first gym leader.
Charmander's got fire. He's a lizard. He's so cool.
He's so cool, but he's very difficult because you can't beat Onyx with Charmander.
No.
So you had to evolve, especially in those early games. If you wanted to beat Brock, you needed Butterfree, essentially.
Yeah.
Which means you had to grind in the Viridian Forest. Pain in the ass.
Yeah, leveling up those Weedles and Kakunas are not fun.
Nope.
That's why you get to the daycare, you just drop your Magikarp off and you just...
Well, the daycare didn't exist in the first game.
Did it not? I
Oh, it does. Breeding didn't exist until the
Breeding
second.
didn't
Thank
exist.
you.
So you're a kid with a Pokemon. You go capture other Pokemon. You need to get 8 gym badges. Something that I think is pretty cool about the game is it has a level of gatekeeping not too different from a Metroid or a Castlevania where you need specific Pokemon or badges to get past certain spots.
Sure. But the way that the world is designed, there are certain parts that are blocked off because maybe there's something happening on a bridge and you can't get past it.
Snorlax.
In these ones, it's less environmental storytelling and it's more just like, oh, there's a crowd. They're gathered around to watch something stupid and you just can't pass them.
Yeah. There's not a main villain in the game. You have your rival who's just kind of that dickhead friend. And then you have Giovanni. And I like that the bad guy is kind of just a corporation. Team Rocket.
Well, I mean, he's more of a mobster.
But yeah, he's not the end boss, though.
Essentially, your goal is to become the champion of the region in each of these games. And so that involves fighting the Elite Four.
How bad do you have to feel as the Elite Four? You're one of the best in the world. Some 14-year-old kid or however old he is comes in and beats you. Then directly afterwards, another 14-year-old kid comes in and beats
your ass. And then they're competing, and it's just like, well, I guess so. But I mean,
maybe I should have had different Pokemon other than all lightning type Surge.
I think they do that on purpose, though.
Well, they do, but I don't know. You'd think that
because they're supposed to be
diversify your Pokemon, man.
You would imagine.
Yeah.
There are certain games where you can go back and face them, and they have much stronger Pokemon with like different typage.
Yeah.
Like, well, they still have to have that original type they brag about. Like, it has to be at least part rock type for Brock, but they'll introduce other ones that you can bring that they bring into it. Mm-hmm. A lot of the problem that Pokemon had until they started introducing stuff like the Battle Frontier and like the Pokemon Tower.
What games were those introduced in?
The Battle Frontier was introduced in Emerald. There's a form of it in Ruby and Sapphire, and I'd never played Ruby and Sapphire when they first came out.
Emerald is a kind of updated version of Ruby and Sapphire.
Ruby and Sapphire, right?
Yeah.
And it's this post-game thing that they do. It's mainly where you can face kind of randomized trainer encounters. Sometimes they're very straightforward and they're planned, but they're more difficult than the main game themselves. So it gives people an extra challenge after they're done with the game. And if you're anyone like me, who even now in Sword and Shield, I'm just like, I know what I'm doing. I've never once like blacked out or, I mean, some of my Pokemon may faint, but I've never like game overed the game. Once all your Pokemon are wiped out, they transfer you back to the Pokemon Center. You get to try again. I've never had that happen, at least in this one.
Pokemon games aren't that difficult.
No, they're not.
If I could beat them as a kid, and you mentioned this before, where you just didn't think too much on moves, you just wanted to always use Flamethrower. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time playing it as I grew up a little bit, realizing that the status effects can be amazing.
Well, especially Venusaur with Leech Seed and Toxic.
And Haunter, you put them to sleep and you just eat their nightmares.
Yeah.
That's so effective. I remember I worked at a pizza place called Mesa Pizza in the Twin Cities. There was just a communal Game Boy Color, and there was just there's one Pokemon Red, and you don't know who's working, but someone always plays it for maybe an hour, and you'd pick it up on your next shift, and all right, we're here now. You don't know which Pokemon you got, but someone named a Haunter Boo Radley.
Oh, no.
Which became quickly my favorite Pokemon. And
Haunter, really? Well, I guess
couldn't evolve it.
Cool.
And
of course.
Its name was based on my name. So
still good. Oh, Boo Radley, yeah.
So every time there's a rare candy or a stat up thing, I just like put on Boo Radley as soon as I got the hold of the game. But that Haunter took me through the Elite Four almost by himself.
He's a good sweeper.
Psychic Pokemons can be tricky. It's not Pokemons, it's Pokemon. Single and plural.
Yeah. Haunter is Ghost and Poison. He's not Psychic.
Or Ghost. But was Ghost and Psychic different in Gen 1?
So there was only one Ghost line in the first game, and that's
so they were Psychic.
No, they weren't.
Were they considered Ghost?
They were Ghost and Poison. Otherwise, Ghost would have no real weakness.
They didn't have multiple types, though, in the first generation.
They
did they?
Yeah. Charizard was still fire flying.
I'm so excited to edit this out so no one knows I don't know what I'm talking about. What types were added in the series after Gen 1?
Well, in Gold and Silver, they introduced Dark and Steel type.
Which are dumb types.
No, they're not. They're super cool.
What makes a Steel type Pokemon?
It's made of metal, or they're as hard as metal. There's a difference.
So are all rock Pokemon not as cool now?
Rock has never been good.
Yeah.
Rock is a dumb typing.
Yeah, all those rock gym leaders just trying to bang Dittos dressed as Nurse Joy.
Well, it's just like automatically that rock types are usually physically defensive and physically powerful. So you'd bring in someone with a special attack, like a water attack, something like that.
Yep.
And you basically wipe the floor with them. In fact, I faced a rock gym leader last night from Sword and Shield.
Yeah.
He kept bragging to me about how good he was, and I blew through him with one Pokemon. And there's something called like Gigantamaxing. Even once they reached like that point where they made their Pokemon gigantic and have like superpowers, I didn't have to Gigantamax him once. I just beat him. It was easy.
Well, we'll get to Gigantamax. Yes. I want to talk
yes,
about.
I know.
I want to talk about that.
Oh, and then in Gen 6 they introduced Fairy type.
Okay, Steel type and Dark type are tricksters.
Steel type is a more defensive type, and it's also necessary because Fire type needed more things weak to it, because in the first game there were very few Fire types, and so the Pokemon that you had that you would never want a Fire type because Fire moves weren't doing anything to anyone essentially. It
grass Pokemon,
grass and bug.
Yeah, which there are quite a few of those.
Yeah, but there's more Water type of. Yeah. Water type consists of, I think, 40%. Don't quote me on that. 40% of the entire Pokédex.
I think one of the reasons I'm getting my types confused in my head is because the most recent Pokemon game I played is the trading card game on the Game Boy. And many Pokemon are simplified into fewer types. So
rock would be fighting.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
That's where I'm getting confused. And then fairy types are... Clefairies, and that's it.
They would have to change. They changed the types of a few older Pokemon after they did that.
Because if Clefairy wasn't a fairy type,
that would be fucked.
It'd be funny.
Yeah. Well, and they changed Mr. Mime from a psychic to a psychic fairy, which makes a bit more sense.
I would go see Mr. Mime to like have a psychic reading if he was like a psychic fairy.
Well, he doesn't say anything but his name.
Well, he'd have to give you your fortune. Through Mime.
How many years do I have left? Numbers. It's like,
2 words.
Oh, geez. He has to act it out. I bet he would like that, actually. No, but Fairy type was really important because Dragon types controlled the metagame, the competitive scene. And if you didn't have at least 2 dragons in your party in a metagame, you were already lost. And early on, even with 400-some Pokemon, if you didn't have 2 very specific dragon types, you would be basically like shut out. And that would be Garchomp and Salamence.
What were Gen 1 dragons? Just the Dragonite family?
Yep, that's it.
That was it.
Yep. Gen 2, they added an evolution for Seadra called Kingdra. Also, there's one I am forgetting.
Kingdra is a dragon type.
Kingdra is a dragon water type.
Lapras isn't a dragon type.
Lapras is ice water.
And there's an evolution for Rhydon, right?
No, Rhydon's now there is. It's called Rhyperior.
Rhyperior?
Yeah.
That's not the best name.
No, and it looks really bad too.
I saw while I was reviewing for today that there is an evolution for Farfetch'd called Surfetch'd.
I have it in my party right now.
Which that is the only time I thought Farfetch'd could be cool ever.
I loved Farfetch'd.
He's a dumb looking Pokemon.
You have to trade to get him in the game.
Yeah.
He's not found in the wild, but I love Farfetch'd.
What do you got? He's carrying around leeks.
Yeah, he's carrying on a leek. He's a duck who fights with a leek. That's so cool.
That's kind of cool.
It's pretty rad.
Should we talk about some of the spinoffs? Sure.
What's your? My question would be, what's your favorite?
Pokemon Snap.
Because it's a simple, fun game.
It's a fun game. It's an odd game. It's a rail shooter about taking pictures of Pokemon.
You know, people have been asking for a spin-off for that game.
Yeah. And
forever. You know, if they released a new one, people would buy it. Did you know that when they released it for the Wii U, it was the top-selling game for the Wii U on their virtual console for at least like 6 months?
That's amazing. I'm not surprised, though.
And this is when it was a dead system.
My friend had Pokemon Snap, and when I got a better picture of Mew than he did, he was pretty pissed.
Did you get an A?
Well, it was, we knew how to get A's easily, but it was just those.
It still just looked better.
Those points, just the points that Professor. It's not Oak.
It is Oak.
Is it? No,
it's Oak.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Man, I misremember everything about Pokemon. No, I really like Pokemon Snap. I think I would have liked Pokemon Stadium, but I wasn't a Nintendo 64 kid.
Oh, I was, and I had the thing that came with it, that where you strapped your thing in, and you could just play Pokemon on the TV then too.
Just like
it connected to that bottom portion where you would have put the Rumble Pack.
Yeah.
And then you could insert your Game Boy cartridge into that.
And you could just play Game Boy games through your 64, just the Pokemon game?
Just Pokemon on Pokemon Stadium, essentially.
I always loved that concept so much that you could bring your past Pokemon to new games. Almost until now.
Okay, so Gen 1 and 2.
Yeah.
No.
You couldn't bring Gen 1 into Gen 2?
Mm-mm. Any from Gen 2 into Gen 3 either.
But yeah, I like...
I mean, it's the same, but it's not the same Pokemon you grew up with then.
I do like the fact that you can trade Pokemon, at least today, through the games. Mm-hmm. And even with Pokemon Stadium, the concept of being able to plug your game into Pokemon Stadium and see your Pokemon up on the big screen.
Oh my God.
That's so cool.
Wild.
Yeah.
And then there was a rental system in case someone you were battling didn't have Pokemon game.
Yeah.
So they could face you and they could choose from the entire list of Pokemon.
Yeah.
And they could just say like, oh, I want this one and this one and this one. And it was all very smartly done where you would press and select them and it wouldn't show the other player which Pokemon you have.
Yeah. I remember being a shithead and I would change my Blastoise's name to, Venusaur. I would change the name and it said, their trainer's about to use Venusaur, do you want to change Pokemon?
Oh, did they? Oh, this was a generation where they let you do that in competitive.
Back in the battles, it would say what the trainer was about to use, and I would misname the Pokemon on purpose. Yeah. I was a dick.
Yeah.
I'm a dark type Pokemon.
You're a dark type. No, Brad, you know what? At the end of this, I'll give you a Pokemon typing, because I've actually been really good at that.
Okay. Yikes. Bug type.
Bug type, yeah.
Bug everyone.
Annoying fly.
And I guess maybe even more than Snap, I really like the Pokemon trading card game on the Game Boy Color.
That's a surprising hit.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's interesting because, I've owned most of those cards before. And just being able to use them and understand how the game is played and realizing how broken that game can be too. With just...
I mean, if you've got 1,000 Scythers or whatever, you can...
Yeah.
But...
It's getting something like those Hitmonchans where you can just throw a few energies on them and they can just punch hard.
Well, and now the game is controlled so much like Magic the Gathering that you have to have specific sets from certain types, and they just want to keep making money. They know they're whales.
Yeah.
They know who's going to buy that stuff.
There was a period not long ago where me and my buddy would just be hungover and was like, let's just go buy some Pokemon cards today, man. It's like, yeah.
There's something appealing about it. You open up a pack, you take a look at all the cool little artwork that it has, and then you see like their stats and stuff like that. I can see the appeal.
I remember you'd always take maybe like the top, I forget how many, 9 cards, and you'd put them to the back because you know exactly where your holofoil, like the holographic one was.
Yeah.
And you'd look at all the other ones and save that for last. But then I remember I got ultra rare EX foils or whatever they are where it's full art on the whole card.
Oh, I love it.
It was so cool.
Oh, my God.
That's when I did take all my old Pokemon cards and make them in the decks, and we never played them, but it was fun just building decks and thinking about it.
That's what's cool about Pokemon is it sticks with you. Even when you're not thinking about it, it's something almost like mythological. You can just kind of like, it's like, oh, cool, I just thought of that Pokemon. Man, I'll tell you what, Sandshrew, I haven't thought about Sandshrew in a while.
Still cool.
Still pretty cool. They wanted to make him one of the mascots at first.
Clefairy was going to be the original mascot.
Yeah,
which
actually would have worked.
I don't know. I don't think it would have worked as well.
I liked Clefairy.
Fragile boy personalities wouldn't want to have a Clefairy.
Well, do you know that originally when they were bringing it here, a lot of executives in America, they wanted them to redesign the sprites to make them look more like rough.
They need to be more muscular if you want Americans to like them.
Yeah, they got to be buff, dicks bulging, the whole type.
Hitmonchan needs a bulge at least 3 times that big.
I mean, yeah. I mean, and then
get rid of Jinx,
and then get rid of that, and then get rid of that skirt, Hitmonchan.
It's not the best skirt, is it?
No.
Yeah.
And it's funny because have you ever compared the cover of like a Kirby game from Japan to here?
Is it?
it changes. They change Kirby's expression in the American version.
Kirby's pissed at America.
He'll be angry. Like if he's like slashing a sword down or something, he'll be angry. And in Japan, he's just like smiling and doing it. And it's they're afraid that little boys, which they still think is the target demographic for all video games, is going to hate it if you make something cute, even though boys like cute things too.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I loved Pokemon.
What are your thoughts on Jigglypuff? Overrated to me.
Overrated?
I don't know.
In what way?
It shouldn't have made it into Smash Brothers, in my opinion.
I think they just wanted like a ball creature and they thought about it.
They already had Kirby.
No, but I mean like one that rolls around. They wanted a certain mechanic and they chose Jigglypuff. I think that's literally the evolution of that because obviously Jigglypuff doesn't need to be in Smash Brothers.
No.
But Jigglypuff is recognizable.
Yeah, it's one of the most recognizable Pokemon for sure.
Yes. And a lot of people really love Jigglypuff.
Yeah.
I think competitively speaking, a garbage Pokemon. Even its
not
evolution.
in Smash Brothers.
No, not in Smash Brothers. I'm talking about
in
the games we're talking about, Brad.
We're talking about Smash Brothers too. And then, of course, there's a little game called Pokemon Go.
Ugh.
You know what's weird about Pokemon Go?
What?
I bartend at a brewery in town, and I'll still see people that they're definitely too old to have been a part of the original craze. I'll see families of people all have their Pokemon Go out because we must be a Pokestop right there.
Yeah, you're a gym or something probably.
And it's so baffling to me that just seeing a much older person just hacking away. And it's funny to me because they probably don't have an experience with Pokemon beforehand, but they still want to catch them and they think it's fun. Pokemon Go, it transcends the original game series to an extent because there's a lot of people that were not into Pokemon at all that are playing Pokemon Go.
Well, the barrier to entry is already destroyed. It's free and it's on something you already own. That's why people play it. It's the same reason that someone will download like a Candy Crush Saga clone onto their phone. It's because it's something they can do in between something. Mm-hmm. I have my own prejudices to games like this because I find that I like video games that are very intentional and deliberate, mm-hmm. and I like a nicely crafted thing that I can delve into. And I'm not saying that, especially over time, Pokemon Go has become a lot more complicated than it was at the beginning, but it's definitely not something that I would have been looking for right away. Mm-hmm. But now it's the biggest money-making thing on the planet. So I'm wrong in that way. I just wish there's a part of me that when I see people playing it, I'm like, yeah, but there's this whole other aspect that you're missing, and nobody gives a shit, obviously. So
it's cool that you're interacting with the environment to an extent, and Niantic was smart because mm-hmm. I knew people that played Ingress before that. Mm-hmm. It's interesting the way that Pokemon Go was not developed by the Pokemon company. It was Niantic making that happen. And since then, that series has now started to influence the main series. The raid mechanic, I understand, has worked its way to an extent into Sword and Shield.
I have yet to do a raid because I am very hesitant. I don't want the Nintendo Online experience right now is very broken. It's very hard to even keep connections online. I don't want a situation where I'm in a max raid battle, which is right now the only way to get Pokemon with hidden abilities, which sucks because I breed Pokemon with hidden abilities. And it's just like, all right, well, there's always going to be assholes. I don't want Pokemon influenced by people that I don't choose to
Yeah.
Like people that I don't want participating with me. You know what I mean? Because back in the day, you wouldn't have to battle someone if you didn't want to, or you didn't have to trade with anyone if you didn't want to.
If you wanted your Alakazam, you did.
Oh, I talked to a lot of dick kids to get a few Alakazams.
I hate you, Billy Thompson.
Yes.
But God damn it, I need your help.
Yeah.
Now you got to trade it right back after I trade it to you.
I recognize Pokemon Go for what it is, and there was a part of it that I found charming in Let's Go.
Let's Go was cooler than I thought it would be when I tried it out.
Honestly, it was just kind of a reinvigorating, straightforward experience, and I did like that you didn't have to battle to capture. I thought that would annoy the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And I actually, the Pokeball Plus is actually a controller for Pokemon Let's Go. Mm-hmm. And the throwing...
And it's only $50.
And the throwing is good. It feels good. Like, it actually is its own controller. Since there are so few button presses you need to make in Pokemon Let's Go, all you need to do is bring up the menu, the stick, which is that front little knob of the Pokeball. You just press that for a button press as well.
Yeah.
And then it's its own joystick. I was deeply impressed. I mean, I was going to buy it anyway. It's a cool little Pokeball that you can carry around. But I kind of wish they had brought the throwing mechanic back in. I really do. It really grew on me. And then you can chain Pokemon to get better stats. Mm-hmm. We could get into stats. Oh, boy.
So Gold and Silver introduced the concept of shiny Pokemon.
Yes.
Which I remember the first shiny Gyarados. Everyone gets that one. That was fun. But
they're inverse colors of...
Generally. But I remember the first time finding a shiny in the wild, which I've probably seen one or two.
What did you...
I don't remember. It wasn't anything special. It was probably a Sandshrew or something like that.
Yeah, like a Hoppip or something.
It wasn't...
a Pokemon you see a lot of.
It wasn't a special one.
People tend to find Zubats shiny because you meet so much of them in cage. Yeah. Or caves, sorry.
And that was cool. I know shiny hunting is a really terrible online phenomenon.
You really think so?
Well, it's not terrible. I'll show you a video after this. We're going to put a link for this kid finding a shiny Ponyta. And they'll play 3 Game Boys or DSs at the same time.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
And grinding for hundreds and hundreds of hours to get one shiny Ponyta. There's a better use of time.
I agree. They're supposed to be intentionally rare, which is what I liked about Pokemon Let's Go. The more you chained a Pokemon and you caught a bunch of them in a row, the more likely you were to find them. So it was very easy to 100% get every single shiny Pokemon in that game. And I can appreciate that. Make it more accessible. Don't make the gameplay loop the problem, is how I would describe it in terms of gameplay design. It's supposed to be one of those fun things where you're wandering around in the wild and then suddenly blammo and you're just surprised by it.
Gobsmacked.
Yes. And you're just like, holy shit, gotta get it.
Don't get a critical hit and accidentally knock him out.
Or you just hope that an Ultra Ball can catch it right away.
Right.
Or a Dusk Ball if you're playing some of the later gens.
And some of those shiny hunters, in order to get a shiny starter, they'll
restart the game so many times.
And that's crazy, but it is cool.
Well, another way to do that is breeding. People tend to do that a lot.
There's a different thing in Sword and Shield, though. With instead of shinies now, there's something with special stats, or they have an aura to them.
Oh, yeah, a very powerful Pokemon.
Yeah, which is going to have the IVs, some of them max right away, and a special move.
Yep. So I've encountered a few of them. I got a Ghastly that has all those.
That's cool.
Here's the thing, though. You can calculate the IVs online, but... IVs are what are called individual values. Yeah. These are what the Pokemon are born with, and it determines their exact potential of how high their stats can grow. So back in the day, you'd have to calculate them yourself. In fact, I still have the IV calculator on my phone.
I remember entering that because if I'm going to get 400, going back to Pokemon Go, if I need enough Magikarp to get a Gyarados, I want to make sure I have the right
Gyarados.
The right Gyarados after collecting that many dumbass Magikarps.
I know, and now there's a way in which I already looked it up. You'll have to wait till the end of the game. There's something you have to do in one of the battle towers. Mm-hmm. And then it'll tell you, like in Pokemon Let's Go, at a certain point, it will tell you what the stats look like on your Pokemon. So it'll tell you what IVs it has in very simplified formats. It'll tell you if it's good, okay, amazing, yada, yada. And it just will tell you that. Now, you can still enter your stuff into the calculator, and you can go on to Cerebi.net and look at all those little details. But as long as I have amazing on all of them, I don't care about the other stuff, because if you want it to be perfect, that's fine, but just get it as good as you can, and then strategy is the king.
Yep.
That's the only thing I work with then. if I wanted to obsess about this and make my life about it, then I would be a fucking loser because I work.
My coworker busted out a DS or a 3DS and was playing Pokemon at the bar the other day after work.
Oh, shit.
And I had so much respect for him.
I mean, it's culturally acceptable now. Do you remember a time where you would have gotten, like, relentlessly made fun of for something like that?
Yeah. Man, if someone pulls out an old school Game Boy with an original Pokemon, like yellow or something.
It's eye-catching.
It's so cool.
It's that purple one, the purple see-through Game Boy.
Oh, that was the
usually.
one I had.
That's one I had too.
I love that.
I forget what they call that. Was it like glacial purple or something
Neon
like that?
or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't think the main Pokemon series has changed much. Throughout the years, though, they added two Pokemon battles and 3 Pokemon battles.
They took triple battles out after Gen 5.
Good. I don't know.
Too annoying.
Otherwise, the series, I mean, it's never been about graphical fidelity. It's just about fun gameplay.
Yes.
I can't think of anything too earth-shattering outside of what they're doing with this new one, which is controversial.
Well, do you want to say why it's controversial?
Let's talk about Sword and Shield. I mean, it's Dexit is the main reason people are really pissed off.
I have a controversial opinion on Dexit.
You like it?
I think it's fine.
I can see why people are frustrated, though.
Because
if you've been able to, they want to catch them all. Not catch half of them.
I get it. Do you want me to tell you why I think it's fine?
Why?
It's because in a year they'll release the Diamond and Pearl remakes, and that's going to have all the other Pokemon on it.
Money grabbers.
Fine. If that's how they want to do it.
Release a free update.
Here's the thing, though.
Or like a $10 update.
Here's the thing. The content is already... You can't expect more than the content that's already there. I do have issues, though, with... some of the animation concerns that they have. Mm-hmm. I think those are valid because they are the same models from Pokemon X and Y.
We are not going to reuse assets. They reused assets.
They definitely reused assets. I will say this, though. The cutscenes look fabulous. The models of everything else in the world
looked great.
They look completely different. But when my Pokemon, a new one that they just made, it's called Dubwool. It evolves from Lulu. And it's one of the the earliest ones you can catch. When he uses Headbutt, he turns around and he kicks with his legs.
Maybe not right.
I think that there could have been a bit more care put into it.
Yeah.
And it's not like you need a certain animation for every movement. But one thing I will say about animation is when they give the reins over to someone who's not Game Freak, like Pokemon Stadium and stuff like that, where they only supervise. The things that these other animators do with the Pokemon are fabulous. They add certain character elements, like the way they faint, the way they move when they get hit. It's not just them going, ugh, and kind of recoiling a little. It actually looks like they got hit by something.
Yeah.
And one thing that comes to mind is like Alakazam with the spoons in Pokemon Stadium. Like he'll like toss them up in the air and he'll go a little wild and then he'll collapse to the ground.
Yeah.
And there's that general idea of care because this is what people are here for. It's not the environments, it's the creatures. Because you could put all these Pokemon in any type of world and people are still going to go wild for it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm there for. I just want to see new creatures. The world is fine, but you're always going to have the standard JRPG flex of Ice World, Fire World, Forest, and they can take different forms, but it's all going to be the same. There's nothing that's going to completely like blow your mind.
Yeah, and something that doesn't blow my mind is Dynamax and what is it, Gigantamax?
So yeah, Dynamax is the standard. It's the standard. It's a gameplay element. In the same vein as Mega Evolution and Z moves. Mega Evolution came out in X and Y, and it's just one where certain Pokemon can hold a stone that once per battle, every single battle, you can evolve that Pokemon one step further. Mm-hmm. And that's usually a more powerful version, but then you would understand that your other opponent or your opponent has a Pokemon with a Mega Evolution stone as well. So it's a strategy of figuring out when to use that. Like it's an explosion. And once you use it, it's done. Your opponent can counteract it, and it's all about timing. In Sun and Moon, they introduced Z moves, which are just powerful moves that you can activate, and those are fine. And a lot of those have to do with either boosting stats to an insane degree, but it's just kind of to me, it's a bit of a reskin on Mega Evolution but giving it to all Pokemon, just not specific ones. Now, Gigantamaxing and Dynamaxing.
I hate the names.
I know, I hate it too. I would just say this is another interpretation of that, because when they Gigantamax, they change form. There are only certain Pokemon that can Gigantamax.
Yeah.
But everyone can Dynamax. And it's very confusing, and they don't explain it well. And the only times you can really do it in the game, unless you're in like a raid battle, are during like gym battles. So it's not as prevalent either. So I kind of find it to be a wasted system that they introduced.
Can you Gigantamax Snorlax or
yeah.
Wailord?
Dude, one of the things that really upset me today is I fought a person with a Wailord. He was not to scale. He wasn't even close to scale. He was about the size of a small ghost Pokemon that I was carrying around.
Yeah.
Or like, he was big.
How do you do that, though? If you really want to show a whale Pokemon that's not in the water.
Just give it scale. That's it. Blow up the model.
They need to make it to where if you are fighting a water-type Pokemon, that part of the stage adapts to them and lets them have water around them.
Oh, yeah. That's always been something that kind of takes me out of it. But it's fine. They can float. I really don't care.
So overall, your review of Sword and Shield, what are your thoughts?
I would say that it's a really great new direction, but I think this is almost something that they're going to build upon to create the perfect Pokemon game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it looks good.
I think it's so close. I think it's almost there. And that's something I can't say about every single Pokemon game. I thought X and Y were brilliant. Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, they only built on top of it. Sun and Moon, I was deeply disappointed with.
Yeah.
I thought they were fun, but they were a little too hand-holdy. This one, I would probably say 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
There's not much you can ask for in a Pokemon game because you know what you're getting anyway.
Yeah. Dex, it seems like an issue to me. I guess I haven't played them, but still, the concept of wanting to catch them all and bring them forward, I have that. But you said, yeah, they'll bring them in next time. Did you ever watch Twitch Plays Pokemon? We don't have tons of time.
No, we don't know.
I just want to talk about Twitch Plays Pokemon.
I did. I watched a bit of it, not all of it live.
That would have been, like 16 days worth of live.
Yeah, so it's everyone on Twitch entering a different input.
It has a Guinness World Record for most participants in a single-player game ever.
Jeez Louise.
It had up to 1,165,140 different players.
I'm surprised Twitch didn't crash.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just interesting watching them struggle with a ledge for half a day because everyone's inputting down and they just have to get by a ledge. Yeah, I watched the whole story of it on YouTube. It's worth looking at, but we won't talk about it here. A couple of little things I thought were funny. Christians were against the concept of Pokemon evolution.
Yes.
PETA made a hashtag.
I made a joke about that in the last podcast, and nobody got it.
We're here now.
Okay.
We're raw dogging it now.
We're raw dogging it.
And PETA had an issue with catching animals, so they made a hashtag, gotta free them all.
Oh, yeah, I remember all that.
Super cute.
if like here's another thing I'll say about all this weird activism about stuff that's fake. First of all, get a job, and then second of all, just find something better to do with your life.
Yeah,
it's like when people were railed against Harry Potter. It doesn't matter.
No one's gonna listen to you.
No one cares about what you're saying. Like literally, you're not changing anybody's mind.
You know what? The one person. There's a few people that really fucked with the Harry Potter fans. Those that were screaming spoilers at them while they were waiting in line.
Oh, that was funny though.
I mean,
it sucks. But it's funny.
Completely rude.
It's completely rude.
I would never shit on someone's parade, but
PETA wanted to decent people.
If PETA wanted to fuck with Pokemon, if there was a way just to spoil Pokemon for people,
there is no way. You know what's going to happen in a Pokemon game.
Yeah, the rival's going to be a dick and say smell you later.
No, actually, the rival hasn't been a dick for a long time.
Yeah,
he's been a nice boy who's like a friendly rival. Really pisses me off.
Yeah,
I miss when he would like talk down to me, and I'm like, I'm going to kick your ass.
What Pokemon type am I?
Brad, for you, I'm going to go with fire type.
So, but you said fire types are useless.
Early games, yeah.
Okay.
Now they actually have the stab is very good on fire type moves, and maybe there's a secondary type. I wouldn't know what to tell you. And I think I might be I've gone with fire and ground type.
I'm going to give you a dragon type.
You think dragon type?
Because there's really not a lot of people like you.
Maybe I'm fairy type.
you're dragon fairy.
Dragon fairy. Actually, that's a combo that hasn't existed yet, so that's pretty good.
No one like you's ever existed.
No, I'm definitely a weirdo, that's for sure.
Yeah, so we're Raw Dogs. We're going to be releasing content.
One every 2 weeks. Yeah.
Bi-weekly. Up next, we're supposed to be talking about Kojima and his history with Konami.
It'll probably be a shorter episode than this.
We'll figure something out. We could talk about other Konami stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe just like Konami as a company. We'll see.
And then maybe... I would imagine that if there's like an indie game that maybe one of us played on like the Switch or something like that, something that we don't bring up during the main podcast.
Yeah.
That might be something to bring up. Maybe a few recommendations here and there. That's not the worst thing that we could do.
We're figuring it out as we go along. If you have any feedback, let us know. You can find us on Twitter. We're at Hot Dogcast, HOT Dogcast. Instagram, Hair of the Dogcast. Find us on Facebook. All podcast apps. You're already listening to us, so you got us there.
That's true.
Instagram.
Rate, review, subscribe.
Yeah, do those things. That helps us out a lot. We do have a Patreon now. We haven't set up the tiers yet, but we are trying to figure out a way to make this more of a releasing content all the time, and it takes a lot of effort to do these research and edit these things so we don't sound like gigantic idiots. At least for me. That's why I like to do the editing, so I can make sure I sound not 100% stupid.
Well, I mean, you sound fine. I will say, like, there's nothing that pisses me off more than an inconsistent schedule, especially with podcasting. So it's going to be my goal as well to kind of make sure everything's on track as well. Also, I'll probably be running the Patreon. So if you guys have anything, like, even if it's like a bonus episode of some sort where it's just us hanging out, I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. We could do something like that. It doesn't have to be video game related, but it all depends on what you guys are willing to pay for, essentially.
Yeah, but this is get used to us because we're going to be around bi-weekly, regularly scheduled.
Yes.
And yeah, like, subscribe, follow us, do all those things. And before we go, let's talk about Herman Cain, the presidential candidate who quoted, I believe it was the Pokemon movie.
Yes.
When he was bowing out of the presidential race.
2012.
2012. Was it 2012?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 2012 election, yeah.
He used a quote from Pokemon the movie 2000. It wasn't even the original one.
It's 2000, yeah.
This politician watched the second Pokemon movie and during the credits song was moved to emotion so much that he used it as part of his speech.
Yeah, man. Power of one, baby.
Life can seem impossible.
So good. You know, I'll be honest with you. Like, at least I can appreciate it, and I think he's a hero. Because, like, honestly, like, if you find something that you like and you know it would sound lame, and you still go with it anyway because it moved you, I think that's awesome.
No, he quoted it once before, and he didn't.
Oh, did he?
And then someone called him out. They said it's from the Pokemon movie. And then when he did it, he did the whole speech when he was bowing out of the race, and that's when he's like, "Yep, I believe it was from the Pokemon movie."
It just goes to show, folks, all you need is money to get into office.
Yeah, because you can be a legitimate contender and accidentally quote the Pokemon movie too. So we're going to let you listen to that on the way out. We've been the Raw Dogs. I'm Brad.
I'm Dylan.
And you can find me at Loaf of White Brad if you're really desperate. Otherwise, reach out in the Dogcast stuff.
You can't find me mostly anywhere, which is fine. I'll let you know if that changes. Peace.
Thanks for checking us out. We'll see you next time.
I believe these words came from the Pokemon movie. The media pointed that out. I'm not sure who the original author is, so don't go write an article about the poem. But it says a lot about where I am with my wife and my family, and where we are as a nation. Life can be a challenge. Life can seem impossible. It's never easy when there's so much on the line. But you and I can make a difference.